let's leave it there. Anyone who wants to hear that rant, you can watch the stream. But I won't keep anyone on YouTube here who didn't want to hear that. What was that, an 8-minute rant? Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. We're doing chapter 18 and 19 as well. They're short chapters. And then after that, a couple. Yeah, that'll do us till next week. And then we'll move on to another book. I've noticed it dropping off in popularity. That's fine. You'd expect videos to be like that anyway, because obviously nobody wants to start at chapter 18. You know what I mean? So it's only people who've been watching this all the way that will still be here for it. So I suppose we're lucky to have what we do. We'll move on though. Possibly book 4, although I don't know. I know there's people waiting, I think, on other books that I started but I haven't finished yet reading. But that'll make my mind up closer to the time. Anyway, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs. It took a few seconds for the absurdity of this statement to sink in. Then Ron voiced what Harry was thinking. You're both mental. Ridiculous, said Hermione faintly. Peter Pettigrew's dead, said Harry. He killed him 12 years ago. He pointed at Black, whose face was twitching convulsively. I meant to, he growled, his yellow teeth bared. But little Peter got the better of me. Not this time, though. And Crookshanks was thrown to the floor as Black lunged at Scabbers. Ron yelled with pain as Black's weight fell on his broken leg. Sirius, no! Lupin yelled, launching himself forwards and dragging Black away from Ron again. Wait! You don't have to just like that. They need to understand. We've got to explain. We could explain afterwards, snarled Black, trying to throw Lupin off, one hand still clawing at the air. As it tried to reach Scabbers, he was squealing like a piglet, scratching Ron's face and neck as he tried to escape. They've got a right to know everything, Lupin panted, still trying to restrain Black. Ron kept him as a pet. There are parts even I don't understand. And Harry, you owe Harry the truth, Sirius. Black stopped struggling, though his hollowed eyes were still fixed on Scabbers, who was clamped tightly under Ron's bitten, scratched and bleeding hands. All right then, Black said, without taking his eyes off the rat. Tell them whatever you like, but make it quick, Remus. I want to commit the murder I was imprisoned for. You're nutters, both of you, said Ron shakily, looking around at Harry and Hermione for support. I've had enough of this. I'm off. He tried to heave himself up on his good leg, but Lupin raised his wand, pointing it at Scabbers. You're going to hear me out, Ron, he said quietly. Just keep a tight hold on Peter while you listen. He's not Peter, he's Scabbers, Ron yelled, trying to force the rat back into his front pocket. But Scabbers was fighting too hard. Ron swayed and overbalanced, and Harry caught him and pushed him back onto the bed. Then, ignoring Black, Harry turned to Lupin. There were witnesses who saw Pettigrew die, he said. A whole street full of them. They didn't see what they thought they saw, said Black savagely, still watching Scabbers struggling in Ron's hands. Everyone thought Sirius killed Peter, said Lupin, nodding. I believed it myself, until I saw the map tonight, because the Marauder's map never lies. Peter's alive. Ron's holding him, Harry. Harry looked down at Ron. As their eyes met, they agreed silently. Black and Lupin were both out of their minds. Their story made no sense whatsoever. How could Scabbers be Peter Pettigrew? Azkaban must have unhinged Black after all. But why was Lupin playing along with him? Then Hermione spoke in a trembling, would-be-calm sort of voice, as though trying to will Professor Lupin to talk sensibly. But, Professor Lupin, Scabbers can't be Pettigrew. It just can't be true. You know it can't. Why can't it be true? Lupin said calmly, as though we were in class and Hermione had simply spotted a problem in an experiment with Grindylows. Because people would know if Peter Pettigrew had been an animagus. We did Animagi in class with Professor McGonagall, and I looked them up whenever I did my homework. The Ministry keeps tabs on witches and wizards who can become animals. There's a register showing what animal they can become, and their markings and things. I went and looked at Professor McGonagall in the register. There've only been 7 animagi in this century, and Pettigrew's name wasn't on the list. Harry barely had time to marvel inwardly at the effort Hermione had put into her homework when Lupin started to laugh. Right again, Hermione, he said, but the Ministry never knew that there used to be 3 unregistered animagi running around Hogwarts. If you're going to tell them the story, get a move on, Remus, snarled Black, who was still watching Scabbers' very desperate move. I've waited 12 years, and I'm not going to wait much longer. All right, but you need to help me, Sirius, said Lupin. I only know how it began. Lupin broke off, and there was a loud creak behind him. The bedroom door opened of its own accord. All 5 of them stared at it. Then Lupin strode towards it and looked out into the landing. No one's there. This place is haunted, said Ron. It's not, said Lupin, still looking at the door in a puzzled way. The shrieking shack was never haunted. The screams and howls the villagers used to hear were made by me. He paused, or he pushed his greying hair out of his eyes, thought for a moment, and then said, That's where it all starts, with my becoming a werewolf. None of this could have happened if I hadn't been bitten, if I hadn't been so foolhardy. He looked sober and tired. Ron started to interrupt, but Hermione said, Shh. She was watching Lupin very intently. I was a very small boy when I received my bite. My parents tried everything, but in those days there was no cure. The potion Professor Snape has been making me is a very recent discovery. It makes you safe, you see, as long as you take it. Then a week of the full moon, in the week preceding the full moon, I keep my mind when I transform. I'm able to curl up in my office, a harmless wolf, and wait for the moon to wane again. Before the wolfsbane potion was discovered, however, I became a fully fledged monster once a month. It seemed impossible that I would be able to come to Hogwarts. Other parents aren't likely to want their children exposed to me. But then Dumbledore became headmaster, and he was sympathetic, and he said that as long as we took certain precautions, there was no reason I shouldn't come to school. Lupin sighed and looked directly at Harry. I told you, months ago, that the Whomping Willow was planted the year I came to Hogwarts. The truth is, it was planted because I came to Hogwarts. This house, Lupin looked around miserably in the room, the tunnel that leads to it, they were built for my use. Once a month, I was smuggled out of the castle, into this place, to transform. The tree was placed at the tunnel mouth to stop anyone coming across me whilst I was dangerous. Harry couldn't see where the story was going, but he was listening, raptly, all the same. The only sound, apart from Lupin's voice, was Scabbers' frightened squeaking. My transformations in those days were terrible. It's very painful to turn into a werewolf. I was separated from humans to bite, so I started scratching myself instead. The villagers heard the noise and the screaming and thought they were hearing particularly violent spirits. Dumbledore encouraged the rumour. Even now that the house has been silent for years, the villagers don't dare approach it. But apart from my transformations, I was happier than I had ever been in my life. For the first time ever, I had friends. 3 great friends. Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, and, of course, your father, Harry, James Potter. Now my 3 friends could hardly fail to notice that I disappeared once a month. I made up all sorts of stories. I told them my mother was ill, I had to go home and see her. I was terrified they would desert me the moment they found out what I was. But of course they, like you, Hermione, worked out the truth. And they didn't desert me at all. Insisted they did something for me, that they would make my transformations not only bearable, but the best times of my life. They became animagi. My dad too? Said Harry, astounded. Yes, indeed, said Lupin. It took them the best part of 3 years to work out how to do it. Your father and Sirius, Here were the cleverest students in the school, and lucky they were, because in animagus transformation can go horribly wrong. One reason the ministry keeps close watch on those attempting to do it. Peter needed all the help he could get from James and Sirius. Finally, in our 5th year, they managed it. They could each turn into a different animal at will. But how did that help you? Said Hermione, sounding puzzled. And they couldn't keep me company as humans, so they kept me company as animals, said Lupin. A werewolf is only danger to people. They sneaked out of the castle every month under James's invisibility cloak. They transformed. Peter, as the smallest, could slip beneath the willows' attacking branches and touch the knot that freezes it. They would then slip into the tunnel and join me. Under their influence, I became less dangerous. My body was still wolfish, but my mind seemed to become less so when I was with them. Hurry up, Remus, snarled Black, who was still watching Scabbers with a horrible hunger in his face. I'm getting there, Sirius, I'm getting there. Well, highly exciting possibilities were opened to us now that we could all transform. As soon as we were leaving the shrieking shack and roaming the school grounds, and then the village by night, Sirius and James transformed into such large animals they were able to keep a werewolf in check. I doubt whether any Hogwarts students could ever find out more about Hogwarts grounds and Hogsmeade than we did. That's how we managed to write the Marauders map and sign it with our nicknames. Sirius is Padfoot, Peter's Wormtail, James was Prongs. What sort of animal? Harry began, but Hermione cut across him. That was still really dangerous, running around in the dark with a werewolf. What if it had given you the slip and bitten somebody? A thought that still haunts me, said Lupin heavily, and there were near misses, many of them. We laughed about them afterwards. We were young, thoughtless, carried away with our own cleverness. Sometimes I feel guilty about betraying Dumbledore's trust, of course. He had admitted me to Hogwarts when no other headmaster could have done so. And he had no idea I was breaking the rules that he had set down for my own and others' safety. He never knew that I had led 3 fellow students into becoming animagi illegally. But I always managed to forget my guilty feelings every time we sat down to plan our next month's adventure. And I haven't changed. Lupin's face hardened, and there was self-disgust in his voice. All this year I've been battling with myself, wondering whether I should tell Dumbledore that Sirius was an animagus. But I didn't do it. Why? Because I was too cowardly. It would have meant admitting that I'd betrayed his trust whenever I was at school, admitting that I'd led others to do the same along with me. And Dumbledore's trust meant everything to me. He let me into Hogwarts as a boy. He gave me a job. When I've been shunned all my adult life, unable to find paid work because of what I am. So I convinced myself that Sirius was getting into the school using the dark arts he learned from Voldemort. That being an animagus had nothing to do with it. So, in a way, Snape's been right about me all along. Snape? Said Black harshly, taking his eyes off Scabbers for the first time in minutes and looked up at Lupin. What's Snape got to do with it? He's here, Sirius, said Lupin heavily. He's teaching here as well. He looked up at Harry, Ron and Hermione. Professor Snape was at school with us. He fought very hard against my appointment to the Defense Against the Dark Arts job. He's been telling Dumbledore all year that I am not to be trusted. He has his reasons, you see. Sirius here played a trick on him which nearly killed him, a trick which involved me. Black made a derisive noise. Served him right, he sneered, sneaking around, trying to find out what we were all up to, hoping he could get us expelled. Severus was very interested where I went to every month, Lupin told Harry, Ron and Hermione. We were in the same year, you know. We didn't like each other very much. He disliked James especially. jealous, I think, of James's talent on the Quidditch pitch. Anyway, Snape had seen me crossing the grounds with Madame Pomfrey one evening as she led me down towards the Whomping Willow to transform. Sirius thought it would be amusing to tell Snape all he had to do was prod the knot in the tree trunk with a long stick, and he would be able to come in after me. Well, of course, Snape tried it. If he'd got as far as the house, he would have met a fully grown werewolf. But your father, who heard what Sirius had done, went after Snape and pulled him back at great risk to his life. Snape glimpsed me, though, at the end of the tunnel. He was forbidden to tell anybody by Dumbledore, but from that time on, he knew what I was. So that's why Snape doesn't like you, said Harry slowly. Because he thought you were in on the joke. That's right, sneered a cold voice from the wall behind Lupin. Severus Snape was pulling off the invisibility cloak, his wand pointed directly at Lupin. That's the end of chapter 18. We'll do 19 in just a wee minute. Might grab a water. Oh, here, I tell you what, I'm going to move that camera as well.